Also going to be joined tonight by Nick Roth from BAS Broadcasting. We're going to talk about the season. Then we're going to talk Gibsonburg football with Shane Dyer, and then Ryan Carter from Clyde, and we'll finish off with Chad Long from Fremont Ross. So we have a full show. We're going to talk a lot of high school football. But, Josh, how was your the last time I talked to you, we were getting ready for that last couple weeks, and, of course, you had Toledo Christian that last week, and they, of course, are kind of the pinnacle program in eight-man football. But for your first year in eight-man football, how did it go?
You know, there's some adjustments that had to be made, and we learned on the fly, basically. You know, we got significantly better from start to finish. We were playing just about as good as anybody in the league, you know, latter part of the season, and picked up some wins in back-to-back games as well. And some of those things hadn't been done since 2016, 2018. So it really built the confidence on the team. It really did. And, obviously you ran into a buzzsaw with Toledo Christian, but they're the,
pinnacle. Yeah.
They were great. They were great at every position. And, really nobody came close to them the entire season. They really didn't. St. Mary's came, 24-0 they lost, something like that, in the championship game, but yeah, they were really the pinnacle. Nice thing is we don't have to worry about them anymore.
Oh, why's that?
They went to 11-man. They
really?
went back to 11-man.
Okay,
so,
well, that's great.
And really they should have went the previous year because that team could have really could have competed in that region.
In Division 7 for sure.
Yes, sir.
So how have your numbers been coming into this year?
We're the same numbers we were last year, 20, right around 20, and so in a lot of our guys, we lost, I'm trying to think how many seniors we lost, 3 or 4. And, guys have just stepped in, and we really haven't missed a beat.
So you've had a good summer with your senior leadership then?
Yeah, we've had a great summer. I mean, the kids are on board. They actually understand, they believe in what we're, teaching, and they've all bought in, and they're all working we're all working towards that same direction, to, turn this thing around.
St. Joe football, Josh Waring, second year now, right, with the program?
It's
as
third.
The head coach?
It's third. It's
okay.
my third year, but it's second year as the
head coach.
Eight-man.
An eight-man. So you did 11 year, 1 year as 11-man, and then the last 2 have been 8-man.
As a head coach,
yes. Yeah. Okay. And we kind of talked about that transition last year, but do you feel like you're much more qualified to be coaching 8-man this year after doing it for a year?
Yeah, exactly. You can watch all the film you want on other states, but until you get used to the way Ohio does it, because every state does it differently, and actually get game experience, that's when you actually start building. What works, what doesn't work. Going into the season last year, we're still we're experimenting with things, and throughout the season we figured out what works and what doesn't, and we've got a good handle on it. We've got great assistant coaches, and the players are very smart and athletic. So, I got a great situation right now.
We're live here at Frickers in Fremont. You can watch the show once again this year on our YouTube channel. Just follow Eagle 99 WFRO on YouTube. Turn on your notifications after you do that, and you'll find the show. And you can watch it as well as listen to it every week on Eagle 99 WFRO or WFROradio.com. Well, you will play Saturday, right, this week?
That is correct.
Let's talk scrimmages first.
Okay.
Who did you scrimmage, and how did they go?
So we had a league scrimmage. Out of the 8 teams, 5 of them were there.
Okay. Like an open.
Yeah.
Back in my day, we used to have like a league-wide preview, I guess is
Basically
what it was. Yeah,
exactly what it was. It was at Danbury. Mm-hmm. We did not scrimmage them because that's our first game.
Right.
We did scrimmage St. Mary's, Stryker, and Chalker, and we did pretty well against all of them.
It was like a 1 quarter against each?
It was
or
basically,
how does that
so
work?
they had, you were on offense for 15 minutes.
Okay.
And you played defense for 15 minutes.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It was really nice. I was expecting going 10 plays and 10 plays, but we got to 10 plays and we still had time on the clock. So I said, all right, let's back it up. So no, it was very valuable experience, and we'll be doing that every year, that we're invited, and it's a great opportunity. And for our younger guys too to get some reps. So
is there 5 teams in the conference?
No, there's
year?
8. There's 8. Yeah, there's
but
still
only
8.
5 were at the preview.
Correct.
Or am I missing?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
There was some. For whatever reason, they weren't there. Some of them had to travel a little bit further. To Danbury. We got some teams that are pretty far to the east.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was a good turnout.
Well, that's really good that you got 3 different scrimmages in.
Correct.
In that
in
one
day,
week.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming you came out of it pretty healthy then?
We did.
Okay.
We've got one player he came back today, and so we're in good shape. We're healthy, and we're ready to go for Saturday.
We're talking St. Joe football. Hey, Coach Josh Waring. Don't forget we are at Frickers in Fremont tonight. It's sirloin steak dinner for $9.99. Mondays is boneless frickin' chicken wings for 99 cents. Frickin' chicken wings Tuesday. That's bone in for 99 cents. Then the chicken chunks on Thursdays for $9.99. So you do take on Danbury. It is a road game Saturday. I do want to tell you, I was driving by, what do they call that? There at St. Mary's where they practice. Deer Law Field, I think is what they call it.
Yes.
My gosh, their numbers
Well, they've
pretty
got
good.
30, they have like 30, 35 kids.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they've got good numbers, and that's really, in my estimation, the team to beat. I mean, that's really 'cause
Really?
they're in a championship game. They return just about, if not everybody. The same with Danbury too. So we have our work cut out for us. But yeah, St. Mary's to me is the new pinnacle, if you will.
Okay, so my question to you: these teams have been doing a lot longer than you guys
Correct.
have. Have they built to this because they've been doing it, or they just have a good group coming through? You know what I mean by that?
Well, they're very well coached too. I mean, especially St. Mary's is Toby Hammond.
Right,
He's
who
been
used to
doing it.
coach way back when.
Yeah,
So.
and he does a great job. I mean, those kids are so disciplined and so fundamentally sound. And Danbury too. They've been doing it for a while as well, and you can tell.
I think they were both original N10 members, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
I do believe.
Yeah. So, because I remember when the conference started, they both seemed to be part of that.
Yes.
So you said there's 7 or 8 teams in the conference, and so you're going to play 2 teams twice. Is that right?
That is correct.
You'll
We'll
play Danbury twice and Stritch twice.
Yep.
So even though you start on the road Saturday, you'll get to come back
Yes.
and play them at the end of the year.
And Stritch was, I was really hoping to see them at the scrimmage, and they were supposed to be there, but we didn't see them.
We're going to have Nick turn down our speaker in here because it's right up over our head, but we'll get that taken care of. So your first home game's not going to be till September 13th when you play Chalker. Is that correct?
The 30th, we play home. Second game.
Oh, second game. I'm
Yep.
sorry, against Stritch then. And then you're Sebring McKinley and then Chalker at home. So it's kind of a home away. To start with Danbury, is that a good thing? Or because you said they're top of the line.
Well, I think it's a good thing. We split games with them last year.
Right.
They beat us in the first game, and we were able to, make some adjustments and play pretty well in that second game. We got the victory.
That's
And
good,
so-
Nick. Thank you.
And so we should be in good shape. I feel really good about it. I know that our kids want to play right now.
Right.
I mean, they're fired up and they're ready to go.
Well, there's nothing like the first week, right?
Sure. You wait all off season. You watch the film 100 million times, and it's just at some point you just got to get rolling. And our kids have really worked hard this off season. It's a really tight knit group, all classes. I mean, all of them together, and this is as good as I felt, being a head coach in terms of confidence and a preparedness.
That's a strange thing, though, right? Because you don't want to be overconfident.
You don't, but at some point you got to have confidence going in. I mean,
the
you
kids
got
got
to
to feed off you.
right? And they do, and they're ready to go. Let's put it that way.
That's awesome, and you'll unfortunately have to wait till Saturday
Yeah.
to play. Is that a night game Saturday?
Yeah, it's a night game.
Okay,
We do have a Sunday game.
you do.
Our homecoming game is Sunday, October 12th.
Okay.
With a team
Kennedy
from
Catholic.
Yeah, they are from Farrell, Sharon, Pennsylvania area.
How far is that?
A long ways. We're not going there. Well, we will next year.
It's a
but,
home away thing.
It is, yes. They might come into the league. I don't know yet. This is their first year playing 8-man football.
Okay.
And we're lucky to have them
Why
come.
Sunday though?
Well, because initially it was supposed to be Saturday. They got a new head coach and could not make that Saturday commitment. So, and it's easier to do a 2 p.m. game for them as far as they have to travel.
Right.
And, just like I remember, well, I don't remember, but I hear that St. Joe used to play all their games on Sunday afternoons, back in the 60s. And
Really?
yeah.
That seems like it would be not allowed.
After church, obviously.
Okay, that's what I
And
meant.
there you
Like,
go.
because
Yeah.
we had church
Correct.
on Sundays and Saturday night too. Josh Waring joining us from St. Joe as they get ready for their second season in 8-man football. It'll kick off Saturday when they take on Danbury. You talked about St. Mary's. What about the rest of the conference?
Chalker is very good too. They gave it to us last year, and didn't play our best game. But they're talented, and we scrimmaged them. We only ran 5 plays the whole scrimmage against all the teams. So
On purpose?
On purpose.
Okay.
Just to see what we could do against different fronts, and we didn't really prepare for any of the teams. We have no idea what they're going to throw at us.
Right.
But once we game plan each one of these teams, I feel a lot better, going into the game than we were than the scrimmage. Although we did play very well in the scrimmage.
Let's talk about some of the names who will be suiting up for the Crimson Streaks on Saturday. Let's talk about your seniors first.
Seniors, we have one of our captains, Ethan Grawl. He's a running back and defensive end for us. He was an all-league player last year. We have William Connell, who was a 4-year starter. He was all-league last year, offensive line, defensive line. He's another captain of ours. Seniors, we have a Port Clinton transfer, Aiden Kozlek, going to play receiver and defensive back for us. We have August Gill, Johnny Gill, we call him.
Johnny Gill.
Johnny Gill. So
I love that.
yeah, and he's worked. It's one of the kids that's worked really hard too throughout the whole years that I've been there, and he's going to chance to play a lot this year, and I look forward to him doing very well.
That's wonderful. Is that all your seniors?
I hope so.
Okay. What about some juniors that'll be playing key roles,
Well,
if you will?
another one of our captains is our quarterback, Zach Ohms. He played for us last year, had a pretty decent year. We really want to run the ball, and but this year, his arm has improved, so I look for big things coming from him. Andrew Spieldenner, he's a running back for us. He plays linebacker as well. He was an all-league player last year. So was Liam Thiessen. He was an all-league player for us last year at defensive back. And his brother, who is a senior this year, Landon Thiessen, he's been basically a shutdown corner for us for the last 2-3 years. So, and I apologize for forgetting him on the first question,
that's okay.
but
No.
I hope that's all. And if not,
You're
gentlemen,
doing this without a roster. I want to tell everybody out there
correct.
you're doing it off the
Yeah.
top of your head. So you're not cheating off my. I
I
don't
am
even
not.
have a roster in front of me. So,
Fair enough.
but it's like we said, it's hard to believe. Like we're sitting here in October, and you think, man, but it's 10 months. It goes so quick.
It does go fast.
So talk about the summer. We talked about your leading up, August camp. Did you have good numbers in weightlifting and all that this summer?
Like I said, they're a very close-knit group. They talk to each other. They say, hey, what time are you going to be out the field? What time are you going to be at the weight room? And they all do it together. That's what leadership does, and that's why I really enjoy having, a junior captain every year, because we can continue that leadership, and it's proven beneficial for us.
Is it nice to have that rivalry renewed with St. Mary's?
It is. Yeah, it is.
Because it went away for a long time.
Sure it did. And it is nice. And like I said, they are the class of the league as far as I'm concerned right now. And a nice incentive for us to get after it.
I think what's wonderful is, that you get to play them again.
Yeah.
But do you still play for is it the Golden Football? Or?
As far as I know, we do.
Okay.
Years ago it was 3 games in a row and you get a Golden Football. So we only play once. We only play them once in the regular season. So if they beat us, then they get a Golden Football. So we're going to do everything we can to prevent that from happening.
Well, Josh, what's it going to be? At the end of the year, what's success going to look like for the Crimson Streaks this year?
Our goal is to be at the top of the conference and make the playoffs, and that's the bottom line. The top 4 teams go, and that's our number one goal is to be at the top and make the playoffs and see what we can do.
Who's hosting the championship this year?
That's a great question.
You don't know.
I do not know.
How did it go last year? St. Joe hosted the 8-man championship.
It went flawlessly. It was a great, it's a great avenue or
Don Paul's just
venue.
A great
Anyways,
venue.
yeah, and everyone enjoyed it. They had the new visitor locker room ready, and they used it. St. Mary's did, and it was a great experience.
Well, Josh, thank you.
Sir.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
And thank you for stopping by Frickers. And we'll talk to you, of course, throughout the year. And good luck to St. Joe and the Crimson Streaks this year.
I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
All right. We will come back to Frickers in Back into Frickers in Fremont. My next guest is going to be my partner, Nick Roth. How are you, buddy?
I'm great, Kyle. How are you? Good to see
Good.
you again.
I haven't seen you in a while. Well, a couple months ago. We
Yeah.
had lunch, but how's the summer treating you?
Oh, you know what? It went by fast, and I am not unhappy about that. I love sports season. I love the fall. I hate the heat. So let's get on to football is what I say.
Well, you could not have ended any better than our season ended. And I kept telling you, enjoy this. Enjoy this. We don't have teams win state championships every year.
Yeah.
And that happened. Bellevue girls last year, we got to go on the ride of a lifetime. And think about it. I've been doing this 30-some years. I haven't had a state champion since I was like 25 or 6, dude.
Yeah, that's
so it
my
just
age.
doesn't
I'm
happen.
25.
Right. It just doesn't happen that often. So.
Yeah, it doesn't, and it was so awesome to see. And the whole community of Bellevue rallied around those girls. And then we go down to Dayton, and it was an experience I'll never forget. It really was awesome. We were treated like we were kings walking in there. Got the courtside seat. I got on TV. We got on TV. I got texts about that. And it was just something that I'll never forget. I definitely am taking your advice and not taking that for granted.
And we hope to do it again this year.
Yeah, hope
Anybody.
so.
We'll follow
Yeah.
anyone. If you want to go to state, we'll follow you. But time to talk high school football. Our game Friday is, the big one.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually get to do the two big ones right off the bat. So I get to do Clyde, Bellevue, and then I get to do Fremont Ross and Sandusky in week 2. So I get two of the biggest rivalries in the area. But let's talk about Bellevue and Clyde. Of course, Clyde lost a lot. Bellevue will have a little more back,
Yes.
especially at the quarterback position. Now, obviously, Clyde rotated quarterbacks, so they will have a little bit back there, and we'll talk to Ryan Carter coming up in just a little bit. But what are you excited about to see Clyde and Bellevue? Of course, Bellevue has a new head coach this year, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited for Coach Shepard to get his start here, and we're going to have him on
Next
next
week.
week. And that'll be the first time we talk to a Bellevue coach on the High School Coaches Show
On football.
on football in many years. So I'm excited about that. But when it comes to the game itself, I'm just excited to see some good old-fashioned rivalry here in the state of Ohio. Clyde and Bellevue, they're 4 miles apart, but there's a lot of disdain between the two communities. They all think they're better than the other one. But when it comes to personnel, yes, Clyde lost a lot on the offensive end especially, but on the defensive end they have that number 10, Hector Garza,
Yep.
who was the man last year on defense for the Clyde Flyers. He actually wasn't even supposed to start
Right,
last year.
because of injury, he
But
started.
due to an injury in summer camp, they threw him into that starting role. And I believe, now this is off the top of my head, he had 130-plus tackles last season, led the team. So when you have a guy like that coming back, it's never a bad thing. And then for Bellevue, I think the spotlight has to be on their quarterback, Ike Brown, coming back. He was a sophomore last year. And Coach Nasani liked to do that. He liked to get his quarterbacks especially started young.
That's
so he
sophomores,
can
yep.
so he can get them seasoned for when they're upperclassmen, juniors, and seniors. So I look for a breakout year for Ike Brown. He can run it and throw it. They do a lot of design QB runs, but he can also sling it down the field. So I think it's going to be a high-powered offense versus a veteran defense. And I don't know. I don't really know what to expect. I'm expecting a low-scoring one, but a good one.
I learned something about Ed Nasani.
What's that?
Believe it or not, I after all these years, I learned something. So, as you know, I was the freshman baseball coach at Perkins, and we played at Bellevue this year. And they last won a baseball state championship in the early 80s. I'm thinking 81 might have been the year. I can't remember the exact year, but who was the coach?
Ed
Ed
Nasani.
Nasani was the coach. I think that's awesome. So
Now, here's a question. Was he coaching both back then?
I don't know. It just said Ed Nasani coach,
Yeah,
so that's
a lot
all.
of coaches
Yeah.
used to do that. Oh,
Anyway, I
coach.
just thought that was pretty cool to learn that after all these years.
Yeah, that is cool.
So we'll have the Battle of Route 20 here on Sister Station. That'll be on 92 on the Wolf. I might remind you that we are live not only on Eagle 99, but on YouTube. And Nick, they can, I'll just wave to everybody, but they can, the easiest way to do this is to follow Eagle 99 WFRO and turn on your notifications. Then
Yes.
every week you're going to know we are on the air at 7 o'clock on Monday nights.
Yes, and even if you don't follow us, you can follow us on Facebook. We'll post the link there. It's just an easy click. It'll take you right over to the live stream.
And the good thing about YouTube, you don't have to be logged in on YouTube, right?
Yeah,
so
right,
you can
correct.
just get right in.
Yep.
And Frickers, of course, we're back once again this year. We love it here at Frickers in Fremont. And tonight is steak. Now, what you have for dinner tonight?
I had the loaded brew burger. That's kind of my go-to here. It is a burger with fries, cheese, and bacon on there. It is not the healthiest meal, but it is one of the best ones. I love having it. It's my regular meal here. And, of course, I get the Eagle 99 discount, so it's worth the money for me. But you really can't find a better meal than right here. Like you said, kids eat free, and all these awesome deals tonight. $9.99 for steak, roll, and a salad, I believe.
Or
I
you
mean,
side. You can get
a
any
side,
side.
yeah.
So.
So I mean, you just can't beat that.
And we have a new videographer this year. Why don't you introduce him?
Yes, Josh Frederick was.
Hey, Josh, come around to the camera real quick. No, come
He's
on.
saying
dude.
no,
Just
he's
just
shy.
come on over. Just put your head in there. Come on, dude. If you're going to be here every week, we got to see you a little bit. I know. Oh, he'll come around in there a minute. He's all tangled up in the wires, but
This is Josh. He's a lot better looking than I am, so you guys are in for a treat at looking at me and Kyle's ugly mugs. But yes, this is
there
Josh.
he is. Hey, Josh.
He's stepping in as I'm going to be your every other host here for the coaches
So
show.
you and I will be hosting the coaches show throughout the football season,
Yes.
and then I think Tim's going to join in the rotation during
believe
basketball.
so. That's
or
still
something.
unclear.
Okay.
Don't quote me on
Well, I
that.
know I'll
but
be here, and you'll be here during
Yep.
basketball as well.
absolutely.
And he'll be here every week.
He will be. Yeah,
And-
he's learning. He learns quick. He's doing a great job.
He's doing a wonderful job. All right, let's talk about Eagle 99. Columbia comes to Fremont Ross on Friday night. We'll talk to Coach Chad Long here in a little bit, but what do you think about that matchup?
Well, always a tough matchup for Fremont Ross is Tiffin Columbian because they just have a storied tradition of success. And but you never know. Chad Long coaches tough teams that never give up, teams that never give in. And you never know what teams look like from year to year. And this year they could upset Columbian, but those tornadoes down there in Tiffin, they like to roar. So I'm not going to give any predictions for the game, but I'm expecting Columbian might take care of business again. But like I said, you never know. Every year is a different year, and we'll see what happens on Friday night.
It'll be big for Fremont Ross to get off on the winning foot. It's been a couple years since they've opened with Columbian with a victory, because then they jump into Sandusky. Of course, they beat the Blue Streaks last year in Week 2, 21-14.
What a huge win that was.
That
for
was,
them, by
and
the way.
then they have Perrysburg, Whitmer, and Findlay. So it's going to be big to get off to a good start, and then they'll finish with, the league play, Southview, Springfield, Napoleon, and Bowling Green. So also, Gibsonburg will have a new head coach, and we're going to talk to him here coming up in just a little bit. I have the first question I will ask Shane Dyer. Do you know what question I'm going to ask him? It's about offense.
Are you going to run the wing tee?
That's exactly the first question I will ask, because they've been running the wing tee forever at Gibsonburg, and it works. So we'll see. Well, but no new coaches come in, and
yeah, they like to change things. I went to a small school, St. Paul, who
Yep.
was famous for their wing tee offense. And
Under
last
John
year,
Livengood.
under John Livengood, and last year Coach Livengood retired, and they tried to change it up at the beginning of the year, and well, the kids weren't really used to it. Since 5th grade, they had been running the wing tee, so they abandoned that in about week 4 and went back to the wing tee, and they ended up having success. So it's always tough if Coach Dyer wants to come in and change things up. It's tough to get the kids to grasp it right away. It might take a year or two to get them into it, but they will adapt, and they will learn this new offense if there is one. But if not, stick with the wing tee. It works.
Coach, it'll be about 5-10 minutes, and we'll have you. Okay? Thank you. All right, speaking of, there he is.
Yeah, he's excited. He's ready to go.
He's ready to go. All right, so coming up again after Nick, we'll have Shane Dyer, the head coach at Gibsonburg. We'll talk Ryan Carter, head coach of Clyde, and we'll finish off tonight with Chad Long, head coach of Fremont Ross. Other than what we've talked about, any other games stand out to you in Week 1?
Other than what we talked about, not particularly.
It seems like we have the better games.
We do. We have the good ones, of course. Perkins, they're looking to go on a tear this year again as well.
And I think all their games are going to be on WLEC
I think
this year.
WLEC is exclusively Perkins this year, which why wouldn't you be? They
Right.
went to the state title game last year. It's a no-brainer. So they're always good. Of course, my alma mater, St. Paul, they're going to be taking on, I believe, Edison or Huron, one of the two, but a tough opponent. So, but those are a couple that stick out to me, but I think we got the good ones here on the BAS network.
Let me ask you one more question, Nick, and then we'll go to break. Let's talk about the new, well, this is the last year for the Sandusky Bay Conference.
Yes.
Right? So
yes.
the lake and the bay will no longer exist after this school year. And we're kind of going to go back to, these are the schools that'll now be in the new conference. You'll have Bellevue, Clyde, Columbian, Edison, Huron, Norwalk, Perkins, Port Clinton, Sandusky, and Vermilion. It's kind of a mashup of the SBC and the old NOL, if you will.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is. And then the the river, I believe they'll keep the name Sandusky Bay Conference.
Yes.
And it won't be the river; it'll just be the Sandusky Bay Conference.
Well, there were when it came to basketball, especially, it seemed like there were 25 teams in
Well,
the River Division.
I think there's 10
Yeah, there
because
was a
they
lot.
all play 18 conference
Yes.
games. So
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, a change was needed, and it was made. And man, this new conference, the fighting and the quest for that title every year is going to be a fun one to watch.
next
You
year,
got a lot
oh
of
my
good teams
gosh, it's gonna
in
be
that conference.
awesome. Every
It-
week's going to be a great game.
Oh, fantastic! I mean, this is going to be great for high school sports, especially in this area, and I'm excited to see how it unfolds.
Only one more thing would make it perfect. I wish Oak Harbor never left.
Yeah, I know.
think they'd be a great addition
Oh,
to
man,
this.
this-
You know,
the-
especially that would give Port Clinton their natural rival.
Mike May always puts out a team that
Yeah.
is ready to win every week, and that would be awesome to see.
But they have wonderful facility. You'll find out. You haven't been over there. We do our game at Port Clinton later this year, and that's palatial. It's really
Yeah,
nice. They put
yeah.
in a new press box. It's nice. The only other press box that would beat that one is Sandusky, and that's
Yeah.
just because it has a bathroom.
What about Shelby? We went to Shelby
Yeah,
last
but it
year.
doesn't
and that
have a
was
bathroom.
Good. It doesn't. You're right.
A bathroom takes precedence.
It's
Shelby
got a
was
fridge
awesome.
and an air conditioner in
Dude,
it, though. It
I
was
gotta have
nice.
a bathroom. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back and talk Gibsonburg Golden Bear football with new head coach Shane Dyer. I'll see you, Nick, on Friday night.
Yes, sir. See you Friday. Thanks
All
for
right,
having me.
we'll be on the air about 6:30 on Sister Station 92.1 The Wolf for the Battle of Route 20 between Bellevue and Clyde. We'll come back and talk Gibsonburg football. You're listening to the Frickers of Fremont High School Football Coaches Show live at Frickers in Fremont on YouTube and Eagle 99. Tonight's sirloin steak dinner, just $9.99. We are live on Eagle 99, but also you can watch tonight on YouTube just by following Eagle 99 WFRO and turn on those notifications. And we're right here. You can follow along with the show. Shane Dyer joining me from Gibsonburg, head coach, taking over for Joe Wyant, who was there for quite a few years. So first, I got to ask you this right away. Wing T? Are
Yes.
you okay?
Yes.
I had to ask.
Yes.
I mean, okay. So you're sticking with the wing tee. We'll get back to that, but I just I had to know right away because it's been a staple of what Gibsonburg has run for at least 3 head coaches. I don't know what Reeser ran because I wasn't
ran a spread.
Okay, so it goes back to who was before Joe
Lee.
again?
Mike
Oh,
Lee.
yeah, Mike Lee. Yeah, the old Clay coach. He ran that. Okay, so how many of the coaches are still on your staff from before? Because you coached with Joe, right?
I was his junior high coach for
Yeah.
the last 7 or 8 years.
You
Yes.
that's still coaching
Yeah,
with him.
yeah.
So how much of the staff is still intact?
We have still 2 at the varsity level.
Okay.
Nick Heiser is a junior high coach at the junior high level, and then we've got Seth Nims and Hunter Smith,
Okay.
who came back.
So when they asked you, or when you applied to do this, what made you want to be the next head coach at Gibsonburg?
I've done this a long time, and my family came first. So I had a couple kids with special needs, and I took care of them 1st. And that's why I was a junior high coach, and I had aspirations of being a head coach since I coached it, because I've coached at Napoleon, Patrick Henry, Mohawk, and then I've moved into Gibsonburg. So I've always wanted to be a head coach. So when this opened up, I had told the AD probably 3 years ago, if this opens up, I'd be interested.
Okay.
So I was in no hurry. You know, Coach Wine did a great job. Didn't want to push him out, nothing like that. I thought he did a great job while he was in there, and learned quite a bit from him, actually, he and Coach Owens. So it was good to see them two just a little bit ago. But that's the main reason, is I've wanted to do it for a long time, and it's just a goal of mine.
I do want to say that Joe did a wonderful job with this program. He won several playoff games, and they hadn't won, I think it was since the 80s before, when he won that playoff game. In fact, I was doing that game when they won. And so he really did a great job with the kids and the program. Now, here's the best part. You said you coached junior high football, which means you've coached every single kid, unless they moved into the district later, you've coached them already.
Correct. So I have a little background knowledge on each of
Right.
the kids, and that helps a lot this year.
So,
So it's not like I'm going in blind.
how it must be strange, though, because they were junior high kids. Now they're varsity athletes, so it's a little different.
Yeah, they went from being little boys to fine young men, and it's a different change.
Hopefully, they're a little more mature now.
Most of the time.
Yeah, I know.
They're still teenage boys.
I coach freshmen. I know what you mean. So most of the time, it's wonderful, and sometimes it's like, what are you doing, guys? So, well, how did your scrimmages go, and who did you scrimmage?
We scrimmaged Plymouth and Van Buren.
Okay.
The first scrimmage, Plymouth, we did really well against Plymouth. They only have 20 kids, so they struggle a little bit. Van Buren was a challenge, but they played physical, but we stepped up and did pretty well against them.
So you feel pretty good going into your game Friday?
I do. And Fostoria was the scrimmage last week, and we
Okay.
did okay versus Fostoria as well.
So you did a double scrimmage and then just
Yes,
Fostoria?
correct.
Okay.
We did Plymouth and Van Buren as a try,
Okay.
and then we did the Fostoria last week.
So when you do a try, how does that differ from just doing a scrimmage one-on-one with a team?
It just varies. So a lot of times you'll get like 10 plays with Plymouth, then you'll go of offense and defense, and then they'll rotate. And one gets to rest while the other one get a play, then they'll rotate and let the other. So
Okay.
it just keeps rotating back and forth.
So there's always one out, in
Yes,
other words.
correct.
Okay. Well, you will open up tomorrow night with, I think you're at Ottawa Hills this year, right?
Yep. Friday, yep. Friday we go
So-
to Ottawa Hills.
And that's been an interesting series over the last couple years.
The Battle of the Bears, that's right.
Yep. So what have you seen in them in film with Ottawa Hills?
Their defense, number 50 flies to the ball. He's a good player. So we got to find a way to get him blocked, and their ends are they run a 3-3. Their ends seal real well.
Okay.
So once somebody blocks down, they close down the hole, and they do a nice job of that. So we're gonna have to do a good job of getting to our blocks and making sure we get some holes all opened up for our running backs.
What about offensively? What do they do?
And offensively, they run more of a spread offense.
What you see every week.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty much.
It's
Yeah.
funny. People have to practice for you, but
Yeah.
you play against a spread offense
Yeah.
pretty much every week, so it's not that big a deal. Let's talk about your seniors. How big is your senior class for the Golden Bears this
I
year?
believe we have eight seniors.
Okay. Can we talk about captains?
Right now, we don't have captains.
Oh,
We just have leaders on our team.
Okay.
So we're gonna.
Do
we're
they
gonna have-
earn captaincy with you, or how does that work?
We are not.
You don't do
We're not-
captain?
no.
Okay.
We're not going to have captains. We're just going to have the seniors go out and alternate a little bit
Okay.
and do it that way instead of just picking three.
So they all have earned the honor by being
yes,
seniors, correct?
Correct.
And is this something you've has Gibsonburg always done it this way? I don't think I
No.
ever asked Joe about that, but
No, I don't think they have.
okay. And has the seniors been like, hey, this is a really cool idea? Or?
Well, right now, there's just not one of them that stepped up, or two or
Okay.
three. So I mean, they've all kind of stepped up in their own way.
Mhm.
So that's
Who are some names on offense we're going to hear from this year?
Reese Walby will be our quarterback.
And he's been your quarterback, correct?
He alternated some in last year.
Okay.
We had Kim was there last year,
Okay.
and then Grant Smith will be our running back,
Any relation to Connor?
little brother,
Okay.
and Hunter's his older brother,
Okay. Wow.
who,
Got a little lineage there, huh?
who played for Coach Lee.
Right. That's one. That's funny how that works.
So yeah, who's related to Ted Smith,
Okay.
who just passed away, and they're going to have this
Aw, that's,
who blocked for Archie Griffin down there at Ohio State. So
are you having something that you said you were?
we're going to put a number on our helmet to
Oh, that's
honor
great.
him. So
For the whole season?
yeah,
That's wonderful.
yep.
So defensively, which side of the ball do you feel is ahead on for you at this point?
I think defensively that we're
And-
a little ahead.
And why do you think that?
We put a lot of time into practice. You know, it's part of the philosophy is if they don't score, they can't win. We used to have a junior high coach, you know, Coach DeAngelis, who used to always say that. He used to say, you know, they don't score, they don't win.
Do you remember the infamous St. Joe Gibsomer game that ended 6-2 about 6 or 7 years ago? Mike Lee was the coach back then. I thought that game was okay. I've done 2 games that I thought would never end, but that was one of them. It was 2-0 forever, and then Gibsomer went down and scored like late in the game and won 6-2. And St. Joe had the ball twice on the goal line and decided not to kick it like a field goal, or they would have actually it would have
could've
been
won, yeah.
or tied. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Anyway, and then I did a game Woodmore and Fremont St. Joe. It was 0-0 at the end of 4 quarters, and I thought that game would never end, and it did finally end in overtime. But the defenses do seem in the early part to be ahead at least. So, what have you been most, surprised about this fall camp with your kids?
The kids' football knowledge, you know, from junior high to high school, I remember from being junior high kids. So they get up there, and their knowledge of the game itself is advanced to what I'm used to seeing.
Right.
So
Where you dumb it down at the junior high level?
correct.
Okay.
Correct. So if you can't trap, then you just run a dive.
Okay,
That
makes
type
sense.
of that type
Right.
of thing. You know, and then up here, I mean, you can pull, they can fold them, and there are all kinds of different things and blocks that you can do up here that we couldn't do at the junior high level.
And it's all because of basically stacking.
It's because of their skills.
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
their skill level and where they can go.
That's wonderful.
You know, they've been together for a long time, and these kids, you know, they work well together.
Shane, I got to ask you about week 2. Are you playing Toledo Rogers at home?
Correct.
When I saw Rogers, I'm like, is that Toledo Rogers?
That's the one.
They're Division 3.
Yeah, they'll be coming in pretty athletic.
That's the first time you played them.
Correct.
Who did you play in week 2? Seneca East last year in week 2?
Seneca East and Edison.
Okay, well, so you dropped Edison. That's good. They
Well,
were excellent last year.
Well, but we lost that game 12-7.
I know. Yeah.
And,
then
we probably should have won it.
and then right after that, they turned around and beat Perkins.
And they beat everybody. I know. We were their best game.
That's wonderful. That's
know?
crazy. So, did it was just the contract ended? Like, I'm talking about Seneca East because that seems like
Yeah.
that would be a good, a nice
think it
drive
did,
for both
yeah.
schools. So Rogers and then Delta. Where is Delta?
It's just west of Toledo.
Okay, other side.
In the
okay. Like toward
NWAL.
Wasion? Like,
Yeah.
Okay.
They're in that league.
And then you have Northwood, which I don't think you played them last year either.
Nope, they're
And-
now in our league.
Oh, Northwood is now. Okay. So your conference will begin in week 4. Let's talk about your conference. You got at Northwood, Hopewell, at Calvert, Woodmore, at Lakota, home to Willard, at Margaretha. That's kind of nice. You go home away, home away. If we were, like, who is the team to beat this year? Is it Hopewell? Is it?
Until you beat Hopewell,
Right.
they're the ones. I mean, they're back-to-back champs. What is that, 5 years in a row?
It's been a long time. Yeah.
So until you beat them, they're kings of the hill.
Yeah, it was Calvert, and then Hopewell came in
Correct.
and they took over.
And Calvert's going to be tough. You know, they've got a good group of seniors this year, and Margaretta.
Plus, it'll
They're
be
gonna be
second
good.
year for them in the program with coach over there at Calvert. So, with Mike Lento, right? It's second year for him. So, what about Woodmore?
Woodmore, they're competitive. I mean, their kid's fast. Roush kid's fast.
Lakota this year?
They'll be much improved. You know,
Okay.
that's where Coach Wyatt and Coach Owens are. So you take 75 years of coaching experience, and
That's
they're
a
going
lot.
to they're going to get better.
and you got Willard, and then
You know?
obviously finish with Margaretta. I know Margaretta's had a couple disappointing years for them. Like they've had what they thought was better at, like last year they thought might be a better year for them. So
And I think they're going to think the same thing. They're going to be. I think they're going to be pretty good this year.
you think so?
I think so.
Well, Coach, you obviously start the season on Friday night at Ottawa Hills, and you'll obviously be traveling over there and taking the big contingent of Golden Bears with you. So last year, the Gibsonburg finished 9-3. They won a playoff game, 21-6, and then lost to is it Leipzig or Leipzig?
Leipzig.
Okay,
Leipzig.
but that was a close game, 18-16. So the guys were right in that one, and so wonderful year last year. How many seniors did you lose off that team from last year? Do you know?
I believe it was either 6 or 7.
Okay. So not a huge amount, but
No.
it's still a big number for a division. What are you, 6 this year? Division
7.
Oh, that's nice. So to
Well,
be division.
it depends. We got Grove and Marion local. huh?
Okay. Well,
Near us.
ask my Hillsdale Falcons how nice
Oh,
it
yeah.
is to be
Yeah.
in Division 7, and you get to the state championship and you lose
77 to nothing,
yeah.
I think it was.
But they made it, right? So
Correct. Yeah.
that's all that matters. Well, Coach, I hope you have a great year, and we'll be talking to you throughout the year. But good luck on Friday night, and get a victory and go 1-0 in your
I hope so.
head coaching career. So,
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. All right, we're going to come back and talk. I think we're going to do Clyde football next. So we'll do Ryan Carter when we come back. You're listening and watching the High School Football Coaches Show live from Frickers in Fremont on Eagle 99 and YouTube. Live on YouTube and, of course, on Eagle 99. Time to talk Clyde Flyer football with head coach Ryan Carter. And, Ryan, how did the summer go?
You know, we were extremely pleased with our senior leadership and what our guys put in the off season. You know, you end last season, you know, on a down note when you know, Ontario got after us, and we graduated 21 seniors. They all played significant time. It was a great group. So we didn't have a whole lot of experience coming back, but these kids really bought in the off season. To be in that senior group, to be in those leaders that you need, worked extremely hard. And we are, you know, we're feeling our way out. It's going to be a different team than what we had last year. It's going to look a little bit different, but our kids are doing everything we ask them to do. They're doing as hard as they possibly can. And we're going to find out on Friday. I say it all the time. I just did an interview, you know, this afternoon. you don't know what you have until the lights come on Friday night. You can scrimmage or you can do whatever you want, but until it is a real game with people in the stands and it's Friday night lights, you don't really know what you have. So we're going to find out tomorrow night or Friday night, and we'll adjust from there.
And, of course, we'll have the game on Sister Station 92.1 The Wolf on Friday night starting at 6:30. Nick and I will have that broadcast as this will be, I think, 3 straight against the Bellevue Redmen, but new coach, so this will be the first time you haven't faced Ed Nasani. How weird is that going to be?
That's going to be very weird. You know, we've played Bellevue, and since I've been coaching at Clyde, we played them in week 3. We played them in week 10. We played them in week 1, and it's been a different feel at each one. So we are excited, but with that excitement comes some
Apprehension?
apprehension. That's a very good word. We don't know what to expect. You knew from an Ed team that what you were going to get. You know, they were going to be hard-nosed. They were going to be well-coached. They were going to do things the right way. But you kind of knew what to expect on both sides of the ball. With a new guy, we've watched 2 scrimmages, obviously, but they've looked kind of polar opposite in 2 scrimmages.
Really?
So, you know, we are preparing our kids to just be the best football team that we can be, and worrying about ourselves and focusing on ourselves, and not trying to try to put in a million different things to try to prep them for what we expect out of Bellevue, because we really don't know. So we're just trying to be really sound in the areas that you can be sound in week 1. Don't turn the football over. Don't have penalties. Block and tackle really well, and then we'll figure out what they're doing when the ball gets kicked
You
off.
figure it out as it happens,
Yes,
right?
yep.
And it's probably the worst year to play them in the first week, since you really know nothing about what system they're going to run and that sort of thing. So talk about your scrimmages and how those went.
Well, you know, honestly, we've seen 2 solid programs in Eastwood and Kenton.
Okay.
And both of them brought different things to us. Eastwood tried to power us a little bit, and Kenton went 5 wide, throw it all over the place. And both of them had success against us. So we've been moving people around, tweaking the system both ways, offensively and defensively, trying to get what we feel is going to give us the best chance to win after those 2 scrimmages. So it's one of those things that a lot of coaches do it differently, but I don't show a whole lot in scrimmages. We stay pretty vanilla.
Yeah.
And then what you're trying to get accomplished is get out of there healthy and, you know, get that competitive juices flowing and see how it rolls into week 1. And I felt like we did that, but we definitely have some areas to work on.
Well, it's the difference, too, of having, 21 seniors who last year you went into the year kind of knowing what to expect, right?
Absolutely, and that was that was a big part of it. You know, having that comfort level, and we kind of knew in the off season we were going to have a huge number of seniors back 2 years ago, and we knew what we were going to run, and it's different, you know, when you have those. I was just telling my son, which was one of those 21 seniors.
I was going to ask you.
He came with me tonight. Him and my
Okay.
daughter both. My older 2 have been coming here since they sat on the lap and put the headset on. You know, little guys. So, and now they're all grown up, and my son graduated, and my daughter's going into her sophomore year. So, it's when you graduate kids like that, and you graduate a group like that you've been around, you kind of have that comfortable feeling about what you're going to get and what you're going to expect out of that group. It's going to be a little bit different moving forward. So we're going to do what we can do and get out there on Friday night and figure it out.
And with that said, one of your best defensive players is a guy you really weren't counting on last year because of injury, and that's what, you know, with Hector Garza. He stepped up and was one of your team leaders in tackle, one of the leaders in the league in tackles. You just don't know, right?
Well, it was huge. You know, we had a stud last year that started at linebacker for us in Deacon Brown that we just felt like, you know, this kid's going to be really good. He was a junior last year. Just felt like he's in injuries have just plagued him. So much to the point where he hasn't been able to play football since.
Okay.
But you're right. You know, you plug a kid as a sophomore in like Hector last year, and just takes over the defense and is your quarterback on defense. And he's been very good for us in the offseason, and we've pushed him a little bit to try to play a little bit of offense as well. he wants to play mainly defense, but we're going to get him on the offensive side of the ball a little bit as well. So.
We're talking Clyde Flyer football with head coach Ryan Carter as they get ready to play the Bellevue Redmen coming up on Friday night at home. And it's going to be a great night, as it always is, out at Clyde High School. Just one of the beautiful, and the weather is going to be really nice, Ryan, on Friday.
It looks like it, right? And we have a couple things going on Friday.
Tell me about it.
Two people that in our area that have been just staples in the football community, in Ed Nasani and Coach Bob Bishop,
Okay.
who was
Yeah.
my coach in high school, and what I feel like is the best football coach we've ever had at Clyde High School. Those guys are going to be honorary captains for us.
That's wonderful.
And have both of those two guys out there that did battle against each other for so many years, and now they're both retired and kind of able to see that come out on the field and come full circle. I played for Coach Bishop, played against Coach Nasani, coached against Coach Nasani, and now to see those two out there and be honorary captains, we think is a really, really cool thing. So we're excited about that. I hope Coach Nasani and Coach Bishop don't start yelling at each other in pregame of this game, and getting after each other. But I think they're past that point of their career.
I would hope.
Yeah.
I would hope. I never thought I'd see Ed retire, honestly. I thought he'd just keep going.
That's a very good point. And for a guy that's did it as long as he had and did it as well as he had, you didn't think he'd ever give it up. But kudos to him. He can go enjoy and try to enjoy the grandkids and the kids and see what life's like without having to be out there on a full-time basis.
Do you think he'll enjoy watching football and not coaching it, though?
Man, I don't know. I've told my wife a million times, I don't know that I'm going to be able to go and just sit and watch when I'm first done. I can go to other games that I'm not involved in, but when it comes to Clyde Flyers, it's going to be hard for me to go watch that and not have a part of it. So I don't know how Ed's going to handle it. Maybe he'll do the coin toss and walk out of the stadium and go home. But it's going to definitely be a different feeling.
Well, you had to do it, though, when you were the basketball coach for a long time, and the one year you did both, and then when you went back to just doing football, I'm sure that was pretty weird when you went to basketball
I'm going
games.
to tell you what, that was tough, going to basketball games. I got my fix from being able to coach my oldest son and my oldest daughter with their basketball coming up. So I was able to stay in the game a little bit. Football, you can't really do that. So when you're done, you don't go out and coach in a 11-on-11 tackle football game on a Friday night
Right.
under the lights. Those games don't transpire. So it'll be a little bit different, I'm sure, for Coach Nasani. But I hope he enjoys it because he definitely earned the right to go enjoy a football game.
So last year you did a little bit of rotating quarterbacks. What are we going to see this year?
Well, we have a couple of guys that are in the fray, that are playing quarterback for us. But Johnny Lance is gonna take a majority of our snaps. The guy that was in the rotation last year.
Right.
He's really progressed. He's really grown into a solid all-around kid, and one of the best kids we have in our program as far as nice and works extremely hard and watches a ton of film and does everything the right way. You're kind of pulling for him. So shared roles last year, had a very limited role in what he did. We had specific things we liked to do with him last year. Now we're going to open up the reins and give him everything. So excited to see what he can bring to the table, and as we are with all of our kids.
And Ryan, you're basically replacing almost all your skill guys because they all graduated. So
Yeah.
how's that gone in camp?
Well, they were all Price's, my oldest son's friends. So I've coached those kids all the way through, and you're right, they were all my wide receivers and defensive backs. So we have had to replace our entire secondary and our entire wide receiver core. So it's been a challenge. But the kids we have coming back are working extremely hard and doing everything we ask them to do. They're just young and inexperienced players, and when you have that, you're not really sure what you're going to expect on a Friday night. So,
Well, it's the last year of the SBC. You excited about the new conference, kind of getting back to old but new, you know what I mean?
It is the last year of the SBC, but to me, I think you're going back to
What you really want.
the old SBC,
Yeah.
to be honest with you.
Well, you got a couple NOLs, right?
Yeah, you do.
But,
You do.
Yeah.
But you have some of those old rivalries that you played against with, the Edisons of the world and the Hurons of the world, and those schools coming back in that, were kind of, we didn't play them for
Right.
a long period of time. So
And
we're
it-
excited about it.
Well,
We're-
you've had a rivalry with Huron for a long time.
We
and-
really have, and we don't play them this year. We have played them for a couple year rotation, but now we play Edison, and that's a exciting event for us. They're going to be very good. They got one of the better players in the area, but and defending the Veer is never fun, and
Right.
defending Jimmy Hall is never fun. but it's exciting to play Edison again because we haven't played them in so long. So.
And it's wonderful too when you go over there, especially when it's later in the fall. It's just kind of a
It's a
beautiful
cool
place.
setting.
Yeah,
It is.
in the
It really is.
cornfield over there.
They do a great job.
Well, Ryan, best of luck. Oh, real quick,
Yeah.
SBC this year. Obviously, you got Perkins,
Uh-huh.
and then what about the rest of the league?
Honestly, I think from top to bottom, it's going to be a solid league, and I think you're going to have to bring your A game on a given night. It doesn't matter who you play. I mean, Sandusky always has athletes. Tiffin is always very, very good. Us, Norwalk, and Perkins are all going to be right there in the fray. I mean, Perkins had a phenomenal year last year, graduated some of those kids, so now they do have a ton coming back. We think they're going to be very good again, but I think the league is going to be good as it always is, and it always prepares you to play down the road if you're fortunate enough to get into playoffs.
Yeah, the one thing they did actually lose quite a bit of Division I talent, which
Yeah.
is a little hard to replace. You know what I mean?
That is. It is, and we will see. A lot of those kids graduated, but they had a lot of those kids that were playing behind those kids for a long
Right.
time that are going to be very good players. So
And of course,
we'll
Sammy
see.
will be back at quarterback, so
That doesn't hurt.
that doesn't hurt. Well, Ryan, I'm excited for another year of Clyde football,
Absolutely.
and I'm excited to get it going Friday. And
And you're going to be there Friday?
I will be there.
You know what?
I'll
I'm
be there
excited
for
about
most
that.
of the games.
Will
It's
ya?
just I'm going over to the Eagle for 2 games.
Okay.
And then Nick will flip.
I
So,
got you.
You got me? So
Well-
I'll be doing play-by-play for most of the year on the Wolves. So.
Awesome. We're excited about that. We love you guys' coverage. You guys do a great job, and we appreciate everything you guys do.
All right. See you Friday night.
Yep. Thank you guys very much.
All right, we will talk. Thank you, buddy. We will talk with the head coach of the Fremont Ross Little Giants when we come back. Head coach Chad Long. We'll talk Little Giant football. But thanks to Ryan Carter. And again, we are live from Frickers in Fremont. It's Wednesday, so a sirloin steak dinner for just $9.99. Don't forget boneless chicken wings on Mondays for 99 cents. Tuesdays, bone-in wings for 99 cents. Chicken chunks Thursday for $9.99. We'll see you after this break, live on YouTube, and of course, right here on Eagle 99 WFRO. In Fremont, it's time to talk Fremont Ross Little Giant football with head coach Chad Long, as the Little Giants coming off a 5-5 campaign last year and then fell in the playoffs to Highland. Which Highland is that Medina Highland?
Yeah, it's Medina Highland.
Oh my gosh, you guys can't get away from Avon and Medina Highland.
You know, there's two teams I would love not to play, and even going in the
Is it
last
those
year,
two?
is those two, and we happened to pick up Medina Highland. So, yeah, they were a pretty good program.
That-
and
Well, the first time we played them,
uh-huh.
like, it was just a weird. That playoff game was so strange.
Yep, it was at third place.
You had 2 turnovers right away. I think a pick 6.
First play of the game.
Yeah.
Caden Holmes threw the pick 6.
I wasn't going to point Kate now, but you're down 14-0, then you tied it at 14,
Yep.
and then they just kind of ran. They had that running
Oh,
attack, yeah.
Well,
so.
the guy that picked off the pass for the touchdown also ran for like 3 touchdowns
Yeah.
as well. Yeah, he
So,
was a stud.
Anyway, I'm just saying that was the first time we went to Medina, and then we went to Avon a couple years in a row, and then you're back to
know.
Medina last year.
I
so.
know. We can't, in our region, it's always those two. Those two are always the big dogs, you know, in our region. And, you know, Avon won state last year. So.
Right, which is good for, what's his name? He's a Mount Union guy. I know that, for over there at Avon. Coach, oh, man.
You
I'll
put me
think of
on
it
the
about halfway
spot.
through the
I
interview.
know.
But he had been
He's a
knocking
legendary.
on that door
Oh, he's been there.
forever.
He's been there and always lost, usually to Central Catholic or
In the
you know,
regional
yeah,
finals.
Yeah, always. I remember the one in Bellevue. It was an amazing game.
All right, Coach. 5-5 last year. How much you have back off that team from last year?
We got 8 out of the 11 on the defensive side. I really feel good and comfortable with our defense. Offensively, I'd say we have. I think it's 4 out of 11. So
Okay. And what's your strength going to be on the offensive side with just the 4 out of 11 coming back?
I would say our skill position, our receivers, all of them average 6 foot, 6'1", 6'4". So I mean, we got to be able to find ways to get them the football and find the mismatch of a lot of small corners that we'll see.
How is your offensive line then coming along, since most of them are new?
So we're anchored by Cole Myers. Cole Myers is now 6'4", 350.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, he's a
He's
monster.
grown a little since I saw him last.
He has. He's the big ice box and more. He actually plays both sides of the ball. So he's our anchor on the O-line, D-line. And, you know, our kids are coming along really well on the offensive line, and that is our question mark coming into the year is how can our young, because we only had Cole as our starting offensive lineman coming back. And so, yeah, now we have 2 sophomores, a junior and another junior. So, yeah.
Your schedule, too, at the beginning of the year is hard. Like, it's tough. So you start with Columbian, which it's been traditional now for several years.
Yeah.
What about them this year?
Columbian?
Yeah.
I mean, they're always going to be good no matter what. They can have what they call a down year and still be very, very tough.
That's what I've heard. I've heard those things, but with Columbian being down, you know, they're down as other people's okay.
I don't know if they're necessarily down. They just rebuild. You know, when you're a winning program like they are, they find ways. They have other people step up, and you know you think they're down, but they still have a pretty good season. They're going to be pretty good. Jed Lett's doing a great job with the program over there. He's been building that tradition, that mentality, and you know the physicality part is what they hang their hat on, and you know they're really physical up front, both offense and defense line, and that's why we lost them in the second half last year of the football game.
You were, if I remember right, it was like 11 to. It was a really
It's
strange
a
score
really
at halftime.
strange. It was a strange score
9 to 6
at
or something? I
halftime.
can't even remember. It was close.
Yeah, I think we're up.
You
6
were
or
winning.
5. Yeah, we were winning 6 or 5. It was something really weird,
Yeah.
and the game just ended. The first half ended like in a
Could
weird.
it have been 11 to 6 or so? I don't even remember. But you were winning at halftime. That's all I remember.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, and then they put it to us in the second half up front. You know, with their offensive line and defensive line, and there's nothing we could do about it. So
Chad Long is joining us, head coach of Fremont Ross. What were your scrimmages?
we scrimmaged Northview.
I could have guessed that.
Yeah, so our scrimmages haven't changed
Let me
in
guess.
many years.
You went down to Mansfield, or they came up
No,
here?
they came to us.
Okay,
So,
so,
yeah,
yeah,
Mansfield,
senior.
you know, so Northview and Mansfield, Northview's still in the rebuild mode.
Okay.
But the Coach Brock that's there is going to do an excellent job rebuilding that. He came over from Evergreen and had success there. And then new coach at Mansfield. got put on the spot. I think it's Coach Reynolds, I believe, at
Okay.
Mansfield, who replaced my buddy Chokey Bradley, who I played with in
I
college.
remember Chokey, yeah.
So, he's doing a really good job rebuilding the Mansfield, just getting numbers. They have really good size. They'll be playing Columbian in week 3, so Columbian will have their hands full with them too as well. So, but I've been very pleased with our 2 scrimmages we had. A lot of points we left out there, but our defense, they're tough.
So you have one of the historic stadiums, but Arlen Field is also really cool.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's one of the.
They
I don't
just,
know.
They
It's,
just returfed it.
did they really?
Yeah, and they got the cheetah, or not the cheetah, the tiger print or whatever.
Okay.
Along the hill now, it's amazing.
I watched the Shelby and Ontario game was played at Arlen Field, and it obviously hadn't been at that, but it's just such a neat venue, you know.
Yeah.
I grew up in Ashland, so I was always we go to the mall in Mansfield, and you drive right by Ontario, not really Mansfield, but it's just crazy. Now, why do you play Northview every year in the scrimmage, but you don't play them in the regular season?
They're in the big division.
They're in the bigger, so
Yep,
Southview is smaller than Northview.
Yes, right now.
For those of you watching
So-
on video, Chad kind of said yes. So there you go.
Right now, they are. It's just really weird how the rotation. So Clay moved up to the big division.
Oh, they did? They got
and
those kind of numbers.
Springfield has come down to the smaller division, the Cardinal
Okay.
division. So
Do they
that
still
was
have
the
that blue
trade-off.
turf at Springfield?
I don't know. I haven't been there
Since my
man.
first game.
Yeah.
So my first game
Yeah.
would have been at Springfield as the voice of the Little Giants. I don't want to bring up bad memories,
No,
but that was not
that-
your fault. You got screwed there.
Yeah.
Let's
I
not
can't-
relive it. But
I
that
can't
was
say
awful.
that, but yes,
I can.
absolutely.
You got screwed. Like,
Yeah.
You were on the 1 yard line
And
with
they said,
I forget it was like 1.8 seconds left in the game, and they said you didn't have enough time to get the playoffs, so the game was over. But you were on the 1 yard line.
what time stop?
Yeah, with time stop. It made no sense. And it took 20 minutes for them to decide this as well, which is really crazy.
Yep.
Anyway, not to bring up bad memories, then. Week 2, I'm so excited I get to do the Sandusky game this year. You beat them last year, and I know that's always nice to beat your rival.
Yeah, I think it's 4 or 5 years in a row. I think we beat them. So right now we've just had their number,
And they
you know
were
it's been-
really, really good last year.
Yeah, we I mean our strength usually is our defense and offensive line, and that is not their strength at Sandusky. So
Okay.
we can
Their
usually
skill?
Their skill is good, and it always has been good. And it's probably going to be the same thing. I haven't seen any film on them at all, or heard really much about what they're doing with the program. And
It's the second year for their coach, correct?
yeah, last year
'Cause
was his first year.
Pajali's last year was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, thank God. He was such a great coach.
You know what?
He was an offensive-minded guy. I love the guy.
That
I think
kid
he
is
was
as
doing
smart
well.
as a whip. I broadcast his games in high school.
Yeah.
When he quarterbacked, his dad,
Uh-huh.
I think, was the principal or superintendent at Sandusky. Anyway, that kid's smart as a whip.
Yeah, he's
Then he went and played college ball at Amherst, or what's the college over there? You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know exactly.
Okay, and then and ended up being the head coach at
Yeah,
Sandusky. So.
he had a great mind, offensive mind, and he was doing really good. That he brought the discipline. I mean, they were turning it. He was doing a really good job, and then they had the whole thing that
The hiring fiasco.
yeah, and I feel bad for him because he's a really good man.
And the point is, he's a Sandusky guy. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's not like he's an outsider, too.
yeah,
It's
it's
crazy.
politics. You gotta love it.
They still exist, huh? In 2025. Didn't know that. And then this is where, the first 2 weeks are kind of rivalry games for you. Then Perrysburg, I remember talking to you after Perrysburg. You kind of got banged up against them. They were so
Oh,
big
yeah.
last year.
Yeah, they
and
were
then-
good.
And you got Perrysburg, Whitmer, and Finley in back-to-back weeks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's a tough stretch.
It is a tough stretch. In the future, meeting with the head coaches and the ADs and stuff like that, we're looking to go every other week of playing the crossover big
Oh,
games.
that makes a good idea.
A lot of us smaller divisions saying, hey, listen, we're going through the gauntlet before we even get in
Right.
our conference. And even next year, we may not play Perrysburg. If Perrysburg can find a week 3, then
You can find a week
we would,
3?
yeah. So we're hoping that happens. Perrysburg's such a
They're Division One.
they've
They've grown. They're so
yeah,
big.
Yeah, they're big. They're well coached. They have so many head coaches that are on that football staff. Mark Gibson being one.
See, when I was doing Ross. I always thought it'd be a good ride because they were 2 back then. Like
Yeah.
they weren't, but they just get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, they
so-
Clyde used to play him.
Right,
So
yeah.
I mean, and then they just have blown up as a community, and the numbers are huge. And I heard they have to add on or do something with the school because they're that big now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your last 4 games are still conference, right?
Yes.
At Southview, at Springfield. Well, that's a new one.
Yep.
And we'll find out if they have blue turf or not. Home to Napoleon, and then home to Bowling Green. And if memory serves, I think you went 3-1 in conference last year.
Last year we lost Clay.
heartbreaker?
Yeah. Yep. We
42 to 35.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that was for the league title. So, yep, Heishel.
And that was right off the bat. Do you
Yep.
think if that game was later, because that was your first conference game? I'm not asking for excuse, but do you feel coming out of like the games where you kind of get banged up a little bit, but nice to play Clay a little bit later on?
Oh,
in the year?
absolutely. That's the first time we lost to Clay since I was a head coach, and so.
But they always play you well.
Oh,
That's the thing. You
well,
know?
they had Heishel. I mean,
Right, yeah.
was the best quarterback in the conference, hands down. He just didn't have all the athletes
Right.
that Montgomery had and stuff, but he was dynamic, and that's why he's at Pitt, and he was a very special quarterback.
Chad, I go back to COVID, right?
Yeah.
In our game at Clay. And it was the strangest thing because when nobody knew what to expect, there were just parents in the stands. We were broadcasting, and I think we had like an hour rain delay and
Yeah.
lightning delay.
Yeah.
But the one thing I remember is after the first play, the center picked the football up and ran it to the middle of the field. And I remember Cahill made the biggest deal of that, and I thought this is strange. Like they pick the ball, the center picks the ball up and moves it to the center of the field.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was a fun game with Clay. That was at least I got to play that year. We didn't think we were going to.
Yeah,
And,
it's we were thankful for the COVID year,
and
to be able to
especially
get
for
the
you,
games
that was
we
those
had.
kids were sophomores, and that
They
was
were
such a
stud.
big year for
Yeah,
them.
they were. That was unfortunate, for them, but that special group, and they're now in college hall playing, so that's a good thing for them. And Caden Holmes can't even throw a football anymore.
Really?
He hurt his shoulder somehow, so he plays defense.
Well, he's a heck of an athlete. I know that.
he is
so.
amazing.
Well, that team was loaded. And the
Yeah.
one thing I hated about that is we had to play Whitmer and Central back to back. If we would spread those out a little better, yeah.
Yep.
That was the year for Central. That was the year. So.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
that was a hell of a game there at Don Paul. Well, what are your expectations, Chad, as we wrap up the show for the Little Giants this year?
I think our kids, this is by far the best team I've been around that I can say there's a lot of brotherhood.
Okay.
And we use the phrase brotherhood of strength, and I really believe our kids believe and trust one another, and it's been the close-knit group, and they want to play for each other, and it doesn't matter. There's no virus, there's no individuals, there's no me's. This is the first time I can honestly say we have a really good football team who wants to play for each other. Sky's the limit for us. Everyone's going to have us as underdogs, maybe being 5-5, but we definitely won't be 5-5. I
That's great
really
to hear.
believe that, even with the schedule that we have, I really believe we have intangibles and components that we can match against almost any team that we play against. So
And it all starts Friday. It's hard to believe
Yeah.
we're here already. Isn't
Yep.
it great, though? Like,
yeah, I love football.
I know you
There's
do.
nothing like it. High school football, college football, NFL. It's just amazing, and I'm just excited that football is kicking off. Now it does stink because I am a teacher, so we got to go back to school when that happens. My wife says,
Oh, yeah, I'm back
hate-"
already.
She goes, I hate football because now we got to go back to school, and I was like, well, I mean, we do football really all year round anyway.
Well,
so
yeah,
it don't
you're
matter.
there
Yeah.
anyway. So,
yeah.
we started Monday at Perkins, so not with kids. Kids start tomorrow, but
Okay.
teacher day was Monday, so
Yeah, we had ours today. Was our
fun.
kickoff.
And it's that great time. Yeah, at least football's here.
I know.
So you brought up the worst part
Yep.
of it, having to go to school. You know?
I know. Yeah, true
Well,
that.
well, Chad, good luck Friday, and I am so looking forward. I'll be here again next week as well. I'm
Awesome.
sure you'll be on the show. So we
Awesome.
can talk about your Week 1 game and get
Huh.
ready for the matchup with the Blue Streaks. But good luck this year to the
Hey,
Little
appreciate it.
Giants.
Thanks for everything you do. You guys do an awesome job.
And you'll hear every game right here of the Little Giants season on Eagle 99 WFRO. You can put that down, Chad. That's good. All right. That'll wrap up the show tonight at Frickers in Fremont. Thank you so much for joining us again on Friday night. We have 2 games for you on Eagle 99. It will be Columbian and Fremont Ross. And, of course, over on 92.1 The Wolf, Bellevue at Clyde. Nick and I will have that game. And Scott and Tim will have a game here on Eagle 99. And then in week 2, I will actually get to see the Little Giants take on the Blue Streaks. And then Nick and I think John Kearns are going to bring you the week 2 game on 92.1 The Wolf. But that'll wrap it up for our first show here this year. Been a fun one. And I hope you join us back here at Frickers in Fremont every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock for our high school football coaches show. Our pregame shows start Friday night at 6:30. Ross and Columbian here on Eagle 99. And on 92.1 The Wolf, it's Clyde and Bellevue. Thanks for joining us for the Frickers of Fremont High School Football Coaches Show.